The big meeting room was full of noise. Different alien species talked loudly about humans again. Ambassador Jiwon sat in her chair and listened. She looked calm, but inside she was counting minutes. The Vorthak delegate stood up. His 6 arms moved as he talked. "Humans take too much space," he said. "They build colonies everywhere. They do not ask permission." Other aliens nodded. The blue crystalline beings made musical sounds that meant they agreed. The tall hegemony warriors clicked their claws on the table. Jiwon had heard this talk many times before. For 2 years, the Galactic Council had the same meetings. Always about humans. Always about what to do with them. "We have lived in peace," Jiwon said when it was her turn to speak. "We trade fairly. We share our technology. We help other species when they ask." The Vorthak laughed. It sounded like metal breaking. "You help because you want something back. Humans always want something." Jiwon smiled. She did want something, but not what they thought. She wanted time. 3 months ago, Dr. Minho had called her with amazing news. He worked in a secret lab on Earth. His team had been working on a new way to travel through space. Not the old way with fast ships, something completely different. "We can fold space itself," Minho had told her. "We can step sideways out of this galaxy entirely." At first, Jiwon did not understand. Then Minho explained more. Space was like a big piece of paper. Most species traveled on the surface of the paper, going from one point to another. But humans had learned to fold the paper. They could step off the paper completely and go somewhere else. "How long do we need?" Jiwon had asked. 6 months to prepare everyone. Maybe less if we work fast." That was when Jiwon knew what she had to do. She had to keep the council talking for 6 months. She had to make them think humans were still trying to find a peaceful answer. She had to buy time for the biggest move in human history. While Jiwon sat in the council chambers, amazing things were happening across human space. On the farming world of New Korea, Hyunwoo was harvesting his last crop. He had grown rice for 20 years on this planet. The rice fed millions of people. But now he was packing the seeds in special containers. "Will we ever come back?" his daughter Minji asked. Hyunwoo looked at the golden fields. "Maybe someday, but not the way we left." Across the galaxy, engineer Soman was working on Proxima Station. The station made energy for 12 human colonies. It was her job to keep the machines running. But today she was doing something different. She was setting up automatic systems. That would keep working without people. "How long will they run?" asked her assistant Jinho. "Long enough," Soman said. She did not want to say more. The truth was that the machines would run for years. They would make it look like humans were still there, even when they were not. The evacuation was not panic. Humans did not run screaming to their ships. They planned everything carefully. Families packed their most important things. Scientists saved their research. Artists took their best works. But they left everything else behind. Houses stayed furnished. Stores stayed stocked. Cities kept running. From space, human worlds would look normal for a long time. Captain Do-hyun commanded the cargo ship, New Dawn. His job was to move people from the outer colonies to the fold points. These were special places where the new technology worked best. "How many trips do we need?" asked his navigator Yeji. 47 more, Do-hyun said. "Then we are done." Each trip took his ship to a different human colony. Each time, he found people ready to leave. They had been preparing for months. Children carried backpacks with their favorite toys. Adults carried data drives with family photos. Everyone knew this was not a vacation. They were leaving forever. The hardest part was leaving the graves. Humans had been burying their dead on these worlds for over 100 years. Grandmother Sunhee's grave was on New Busan. Great-grandfather Tae-hyung was buried on Far Haven. Millions of humans lay in the soil of alien worlds. "We take them with us in our hearts," said Elder Kyungmin. He was one of the oldest humans alive. He had seen humans spread to the stars. Now he was seeing them leave. "The dead understand. They would want us to live." Back in the council chambers, the arguments got worse. The hegemony wanted to put humans in prison camps. The Vorthak wanted to take human technology by force. The crystalline beings wanted to control human breeding. "We could vote now," said the council leader. It was a Sigma Centauri being that looked like a walking tree. "We have enough votes for the extinction protocol." Jiwon's heart jumped, but she kept her face calm. Great leader. Surely we can find another way. Give us more time to discuss this. My people want to work with you. This was true and false at the same time. Humans did want to work with other species, but not these species. Not anymore. These aliens had shown what they really thought about humans. They thought humans were dangerous animals that needed to be controlled or killed. The council leader's bark-like skin made scratching sounds. This meant it was thinking. 1 more month, it finally said. Then we vote. 1 month. Jiwon did quick math in her head. It would be enough. Barely, but enough. After the meeting, Jiwon went to her private office. She sent a coded message to Earth. It said only, "Harvest time is almost over." On Earth, President Huisu got the message. She was the leader of all humans. She had been planning this evacuation since the first alien threats began. She called a meeting of the Human Defense Council. We have 1 month, she told them. Can we do it? General Young-ho nodded. The military colonies are already empty. The research stations will be clear in 2 weeks. The family colonies need more time, but we can manage. Dr. Minho spoke next. The fold technology is ready. We have tested it on small groups. It works perfectly. We can move millions of people safely. What about supplies? Asked Agriculture Minister Chan Wu. We have been storing everything we need, said Economics Minister. Arium, food, medicine, tools, computers. We can rebuild our civilization anywhere. The plan was amazing. Humans had been preparing for this day for years. They had seen the signs. Other species feared human success. They were jealous of human technology. They worried about human expansion, so humans had prepared. They built hidden supply depots. They trained their people in secret evacuation procedures. They developed new technology that could help them escape. The fold technology was the key. It used quantum physics that most aliens did not understand. It opened doorways to other dimensions. Through these doorways, humans could travel to completely different parts of the universe, but the technology needed special conditions. It worked, best at certain points in space. Humans had been quietly building fold stations at these points. They told other species these were research stations or mining operations. Nobody suspected the truth. As the month passed, the evacuation speed increased. Every day, more human colonies went dark, but they went dark slowly. First, some families would leave, then more. The ones who stayed behind kept everything running normally. Teacher Seo-yeon was one of the last to leave New Seoul Colony. She kept teaching her class until the very end. Her students were children from different alien species. She did not want them to suspect anything. Will you be here tomorrow, Teacher Seo-yeon? Asked little Zix, a Vorthak child. I will always be with you. In spirit, Seo-yeon said. It was not exactly a lie. That night, Seo-yeon packed her teaching materials and left through the fold station. New Seoul schools would keep running on automatic systems. Computer teachers would take over her classes. The alien children would not know she was gone for weeks. Dr. Jahoon was the last human on Far Haven Medical Station. He treated patients from 7 different species. He made sure all the medical computers had the latest programs. He trained the automated surgery machines to work without human doctors. The station will run itself, he told his alien assistant. The computers know everything. It was true. Human medical technology was so advanced that it hardly needed human doctors anymore. The automated systems could treat most problems. Emergency surgeries could be done by machines. The aliens would not miss human doctors for a long time. As the final week began, Jiwon prepared for her last council meeting. In 3 days, millions of humans would make the final fold jump. They would leave the Milky Way galaxy forever. They would go to new galaxies where they could build new homes. Jiwon looked at the speech she would give. It was full of nice words about peace and cooperation. It would give the council exactly what they expected to hear from humans. Promises to be good. Promises to follow alien rules. Promises to be less human. But while she spoke those words, the last humans would be stepping through fold stations. They would be leaving this galaxy to aliens who thought they knew what was best for everyone. Jiwon smiled. The council thought they were pressing the button just in time. They had no idea that humans were already gone. Admiral Kex stood on the bridge of his warship and stared at the empty space where Earth should be busy with ships. His fleet had traveled for 6 months to reach human space. He expected to find humans fighting back. He expected desperate battles and brave last stands. Instead, he found nothing. "Sir," said his second officer, "we are getting strange readings from the planet." Admiral Kex had led many battles. He had conquered 12 different species for the hegemony. He knew what victory looked like. This was not victory. This felt wrong. "Send scout ships down to the surface," he ordered. "I want to know what is happening." The scout ships flew down to Earth's biggest cities. They found something that made no sense. The cities looked normal from above. Streets had moving cars. Buildings had lights in the windows. Parks had sprinkler systems watering the grass. But there were no people. Captain Jesu of the scout ship Morning Star landed in the middle of New Seoul. He had been born on Earth before humans built space colonies. This city should have 10 million people. His sensors showed 10 million people. But when he walked the streets, he found nobody. "Computer," he said to his ship, "scan for human life signs." "No human life detected," the computer answered. "Then who is driving these cars?" "The cars are driving themselves." Captain Jesu stopped, walking. Self-driving cars were old technology. Humans had used them for hundreds of years. But why were they still running with no people to carry? He went into a coffee shop. The lights were on. Music was playing. The coffee machines were making fresh coffee, but no one was there to drink it. He checked the apartment buildings. Every apartment was clean and neat. Beds were made. Dishes were washed. Family photos sat on tables. But the families were gone. "This is impossible," Jesu said into his radio. "The city is running perfectly, but there are no humans anywhere." Similar reports came from scout teams across Earth. London, New York, Tokyo, Lagos. Every city was the same, running perfectly, completely empty. Admiral Kex felt cold fear in his chest. He had fought many enemies, smart enemies, dangerous enemies, but he had never fought an enemy that could disappear an entire planet's population without leaving any trace. "Check the other human worlds," he ordered. The reports from Mars were the same. The big cities under the glass domes were working normally. Trains ran on schedule. Factories made products. Farms grew food. But no humans were there. The Jupiter mining stations were still pulling metals from the planet's atmosphere. The computers showed normal work schedules. The machines sorted materials and loaded cargo ships. But the cargo ships had nowhere to go because no humans were there to receive the materials. On the outer colonies, the story was the same everywhere. Human worlds looked lived in and active, but they were ghost worlds. Billions of people had simply vanished. Captain Do-Yun watched all of this from his hidden ship remembrance. His ship was 30 light years away, folded into a pocket of space that alien sensors could not detect. He and his crew were volunteers who had stayed behind to watch what happened next. "Sir," said Lieutenant Young-Soo, "the alien fleets are getting confused." Do-Hyun looked at his screens. He could see the alien ships moving around human space like lost children. They had brought weapons to fight humans. They had brought psychologists to break human spirits. They had brought prison ships to carry human slaves. They had not brought any way to find humans who were not there. "They expected a war," said Communications Officer Nari. "Instead, they found a magic trick. It was the biggest magic trick in galactic history. Billions of humans had disappeared without leaving any clue about where they went. They had not used regular spaceships. Those would show up on alien sensors. They had not sent any goodbye messages. Those could be traced. They had simply stopped existing in this galaxy. The alien fleet split up to search more human systems. Admiral Kex took his ships to the Kepler colonies. These were some of the oldest human settlements. If humans were hiding anywhere, they would be here. But Kepler 442b was empty too. The farming communities that fed millions of people were still running. Automated machines harvested crops. Weather control systems maintained perfect growing conditions. Storage facilities were full of grain and vegetables. Farmer Hyunwoo had left everything in perfect condition. His rice fields were ready for the next harvest. His machines knew exactly when to plant and when to harvest. The farm would feed nobody, but it would keep growing food for years. The alien fleets found the same thing on every human world. Perfect automation, Complete emptiness. Admiral Kex called a meeting with the other fleet commanders. The Vorthak Admiral Grix looked nervous. The Crystalline Admiral sang worried notes. The Sigma Centauri Admiral made rustling sounds with its leaves. "Where are they?" asked Admiral Grix. "Humans cannot just disappear." "Maybe they knew we were coming," suggested the Crystalline Admiral. "How could they know?" Admiral Kex asked. The council vote was secret. But as he said it, he realized it was not true. Ambassador Jiwan had been in all the council meetings. She had heard every discussion. She had seen every vote count. "Send teams to check the space stations," Admiral Kex ordered. "Look for any clue about where they went." The space stations were the strangest discovery of all. Proxima Station was still generating power for 12 colonies, but those colonies were empty. The station was making energy for nobody. Engineer Soman had left the station running perfectly. All the safety systems worked, all the maintenance. Schedules were programmed. The station could run by itself for decades. But why? Why leave everything running if nobody was there to use it? Captain Do-hyun knew the answer. It was part of the plan. Keep everything looking normal for as long as possible. Make the aliens think humans might come back. Make them waste time and resources guarding empty worlds. "Sir," said Sensor Specialist Minji, "we are getting reports from the other fleets." The reports were all the same. Human space was completely empty, not just of people, but of any sign that people had ever planned. To leave. There were no packed bags, no goodbye notes, no ships missing from spaceports. It was as if billions of humans had simply decided to stop existing at the exact same moment. The Vorthak scientists brought special equipment to scan for traces of human DNA. They found normal amounts in homes and workplaces. But they found no trail leading away from human worlds. The DNA just stopped at a certain date 3 weeks ago. The hegemony brought their best detectives. These aliens could track a single person across an entire galaxy. But they found no trails, no footprints, no evidence that humans had gone anywhere. The Crystalline Collective used their musical senses to listen for the echoes of large groups moving through space. They found nothing. It was as if millions of spaceships had never launched. After 2 months of searching, Admiral Kex had to face the truth. Humans had not just left. They had performed the most complete evacuation in galactic history. They had done it so perfectly that the most advanced alien technologies could not figure out how. "This is impossible," Admiral Grix said during another meeting. "You cannot move billions of people without leaving traces." "Humans did it," Admiral Kex replied. "The question is how." The alien scientists worked for months trying to solve the mystery. They studied human technology looking for clues. They found advanced computers, but nothing that could transport people. They found fast spaceships, but not enough to move entire planets of people. They found something else that worried them more. Human technology was more advanced than they had realized. The automated systems running empty human cities were incredibly sophisticated. The AI computers managing the farms and factories were smarter than anything the aliens had built. If humans could build technology this advanced, what other surprises had they prepared? Captain Do-hyun recorded everything. His hidden ship collected data on alien search patterns. They watched aliens try to reverse engineer human technology. They saw alien scientists get frustrated by human computer systems that were too complex to understand. "They have no idea," said Engineer Kyung-ho. "They think we just use better spaceships. The aliens never discovered fold space technology. They never found the hidden fold stations that had been disguised as research facilities. They never understood that humans had not traveled through normal space at all. To them, it looked like magic. Billions of people had simply vanished from reality. After 6 months, some aliens started to get scared. If humans could disappear this completely, what else could they do? Were they watching from hidden bases? Were they planning to come back with weapons the aliens had never seen? Admiral Kex found himself staring at empty human cities and wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. His fleet had come here to destroy a dangerous enemy. Instead, they had found that the enemy was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Dangerous enough to disappear without a trace. Dangerous enough to leave their entire civilization running on autopilot. Dangerous enough to make the most powerful military forces in the galaxy look like children playing with toys. The worst part was the silence. Human radio signals had stopped at exactly the same time. Human internet traffic had ended. Human ships had stopped reporting to their traffic control systems. It was as if someone had turned off a switch and humans had stopped existing. But the cities kept running. The farms kept growing food. Dr. Sunho locked himself in his research lab and refused to come out. For 3 days, he worked with no sleep and very little food. His colleagues thought he was having a breakdown. The truth was that he was having a breakthrough. Sunho had been the Council's expert on human behavior for 20 years. He had studied thousands of human documents. He had interviewed human diplomats. He thought he understood how humans thought. Now he realized he had understood nothing. The numbers did not make sense. Moving billions of people from dozens of worlds in just a few weeks was impossible. The logistics alone would take years to plan. The transportation would require thousands of ships. The coordination would need perfect communication across light years of space. But humans had done it. Not only had they done it so quietly that nobody noticed until it was over. Sunho pulled up shipping records from human space. For the past 2 years, human cargo ships had been making strange trips. They carried supplies to distant systems with no colonies. They transported materials to coordinates that showed nothing but empty space. At the time, alien intelligence agencies had noted these trips, but they thought humans were just being wasteful. Now Sunho realized the truth. Humans had been building something in secret. Something big enough to hold billions of people. But where? Sunho studied stellar maps looking for clues. Human ships had been visiting certain areas of space more often, areas that other species had marked as uninteresting. No planets worth mining. No resources worth taking. Just empty space. Except it was not empty anymore. The breakthrough came when Sunho found population records from human colonies. For the past 5 years, the numbers had been wrong. Human worlds reported more births than deaths, but the total population was not growing as fast as it should. Where were the missing humans going? Sunho cross-referenced the data with military records. Human defense forces had been quietly recruiting more soldiers. But these soldiers were not assigned to any known bases. They had simply disappeared from the records after their training. The pattern was clear once Sunho knew what to look for. For 5 years, humans had been slowly moving people away from their official colonies. They had been building hidden populations in secret locations. They had been preparing for the day when they would need to leave everything behind. But the most shocking discovery was in the diplomatic records. Sunho reviewed every council meeting where humans had participated. He looked at Ambassador Jiwon's speeches and voting patterns. He analyzed her responses to alien questions and her suggestions for solving problems. What he found made his blood run cold. Jiwon had not been trying to prevent the extinction protocol. She had been encouraging it. When the Vorthak demanded stronger action against humans, Jiwon had made just enough resistance to make them angry. When the hegemony wanted to limit human expansion, Jiwon had defended human rights in a way that made humans sound more dangerous. Every time the council was ready to find a peaceful solution, Jiwon had said or done something that pushed them toward more extreme measures. She had been manipulating the entire council, leading them step by step toward the decision to eliminate humanity, making sure that when the vote finally came, it would pass by exactly the margin needed. Sunho realized that Ambassador Jiwon was not just a diplomat. She was a master strategist who had played the greatest long game in galactic history. While aliens argued about what to do with humans, humans had already decided what to do with aliens. They had decided to leave them behind. Sunho wrote his findings in a classified report. He sent copies to every major government in the galaxy. Then, he waited to see what would happen. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. The Vorthak High Command accused Sunho of being a human spy. How else could he have discovered what their best intelligence agencies had missed? The hegemony demanded that Sunho be arrested and questioned under torture. They were sure he was part of a human conspiracy. The Crystalline Collective sang songs of fear and confusion. Their musical minds could not process the idea that humans had been planning this for years. Only the Sigma Centauri leadership remained calm. Their plant-like minds were used to thinking in long time periods. They understood that humans had been playing a game with rules that other species did not even know existed. "What do we do now?" asked the council leader during an emergency session. Nobody had an answer. The alien fleets were still searching empty human worlds. They had found advanced technology but could not understand how it worked. They had found comfortable homes but could not figure out why they had been abandoned. Most disturbing, they had found evidence that humans had been preparing to leave for much longer than anyone realized. The automatic systems keeping human cities running were not quickly programmed. They were sophisticated AI networks that had been developed over decades. The farm systems growing food for nobody were not simple robots. They were complex agricultural computers that could manage entire ecosystems without any human input. Humans had not just planned their evacuation, they had been preparing their worlds to function without them for years. Meanwhile, Captain Do-Yun and his crew watched the alien confusion from their hidden ship. They had been ordered to observe and record everything. The data they collected would help humanity understand how other species reacted to surprise and loss. "Sir," said Intelligence Officer Changmin, "the aliens are starting to blame each other." It was true. The unity that had brought alien species together to vote against humanity was breaking down. Without a common enemy, old rivalries were surfacing, and the Mai. Vorthak claimed that hegemony aggression had driven humans away. The hegemony said that Vorthak paranoia had made peaceful solutions impossible. The Crystalline Collective blamed everyone for not listening to their musical warnings about human intentions. "They learned nothing," said Science Officer Hana. "They still think this is about them." Captain Do-Hyun understood what she meant. The aliens were treating the human disappearance like a political problem. They thought humans had left because of something the aliens had done wrong. They thought humans might come back if they changed their policies. They did not understand that humans had not left because of alien politics. Humans had left because they had found something better. The fold space technology that had enabled. The evacuation was not just a new way to travel. It was a new way to exist. Humans could now reach parts of the universe that other species did not even know existed. While aliens fought over empty human worlds, humans were building new worlds. In galaxies far away, they were meeting other species that had never heard of the Galactic Council. They were learning technologies that made their old achievements look simple, but the aliens did not know this. To them, humans had simply vanished into nothingness. Sunho's report had been classified, but copies leaked to news agencies across the galaxy. Soon, every intelligent being knew the truth. Humans had planned their own disappearance. They had manipulated the Council into voting for their elimination while secretly preparing to escape. The public reaction was mixed. Some species were angry that humans had tricked them. Others were impressed by human cleverness. A few were scared about what humans might do next. The most common reaction was confusion. Why would humans go to so much trouble to leave? Why not just fight back? Why not try harder to find a peaceful solution? Dr. Sunho thought he knew the answer. He had studied human psychology for decades. He had learned that humans were different from other species in one important way. Most species, when faced with a problem, tried to solve it directly. If someone threatened them, they fought back. If someone disliked them, they tried to change the other person's mind. Humans were more flexible. When faced with a problem, they looked for creative solutions. If fighting would not work, they found other options. If changing minds was impossible, they changed the situation entirely. The Council had presented humans with a problem. Other species feared human expansion and wanted to control or eliminate humanity. Most species would have responded by fighting harder or negotiating more. Humans had responded by making the problem irrelevant. If other species did not want to share the galaxy with humans, then humans would find their own galaxy. It was the most human solution possible. Practical, creative, and completely unexpected. Sunho published his analysis in a scientific journal that was read across the galaxy. His conclusion was simple. Humans had not been defeated or driven away. They had graduated, like students leaving school to start their adult lives. Humans had outgrown the need for the Galactic Council's approval. They had developed beyond the point where other species' opinions mattered to them. The galaxy was full of species arguing about territory and resources and politics. Humans had found a way to step outside those arguments entirely. Some species found this idea comforting. If humans were gone, there would be more room and resources for everyone else. Other species found it terrifying. If humans could disappear completely whenever they wanted, What did that say about everyone else? Were other species so uninteresting that humans preferred empty space to alien company? The questions had no good answers. Humans were gone, and they had left no way to contact them. The fold space technology that had enabled their escape was beyond anything other species could build. Captain Yunha had been watching alien ships for 5 years. Her hidden station, Silent Witness, was built inside an asteroid in the outer edge of the Sol system. From here, she could see everything that happened on Earth and the other human worlds. What she saw made her both sad and angry. The aliens had divided up human space like hungry animals fighting over a dead body. The hegemony took Earth and the inner colonies. The Vorthak claimed the farming worlds. The Crystalline Collective grabbed the mining stations. The Sigma Centauri took the research facilities. None of them understood what they had taken. The hegemony tried to live in human cities, but they could not figure out how the systems worked. Human buildings were designed for human needs. The temperature controls were set for human comfort. The door sizes were wrong for hegemony warriors. The furniture was too small. After 6 months, the hegemony gave up trying to live in human homes. They tore down entire neighborhoods to build their own structures. Captain Yunha watched them destroy beautiful human architecture to make ugly military barracks. "They have no respect," said her communications officer, Technician Minseo. "Look, what they did to the art museum." Yunha looked at the screen. The hegemony had converted the Museum of Human Culture into a weapons storage facility. Paintings that had taken artists years to create were stacked in corners like trash. Sculptures that represented the best of human creativity were broken or thrown away. "They do not understand beauty," Yuna said. "They only understand power." The Vorthak were worse. They took over the farming worlds but had no idea how human agriculture worked. Human farms were complex ecosystems that balanced soil, water, plants, and beneficial insects. The systems had been perfected over hundreds of years. The Vorthak looked at the complicated farming computers and decided they were too confusing. They shut down the automated systems and tried to farm the old Vorthak way. Within one growing season, they had destroyed soil that had taken decades to develop. Farmer Hyunwoo had left his rice fields in perfect condition. The automated systems knew exactly when to plant, when to water, and when to harvest. The Vorthak ignored the computers and planted their own crops using their own methods. The crops failed. The soil became poisoned. The water systems broke down. Within 2 years, worlds that had fed millions of humans could barely grow enough food to feed a few thousand Vorthak. "Idiots," muttered agricultural specialist Jamin. "They had the best farming technology in the galaxy and they threw it away." The Crystalline Collective made different mistakes. They were fascinated by human mining equipment and tried to understand how it worked, but they approached it like scientists studying ancient artifacts instead of engineers using modern tools. They took apart human mining robots to see how they were built. They analyzed human computer programs line by line. They spent months trying to figure out the theoretical principles behind human technology, but they never learned how to actually use it. Human mining stations were designed to work as complete systems. Each robot knew its job because it communicated with all the other robots. The computers controlled everything because they understood the whole process. The crystalline beings studied each piece separately. They learned a lot about human engineering principles, but they broke the systems that made everything work together. Space Station Omega had been one of humanity's greatest achievements. It pulled rare metals from asteroid belts using a fleet of automated mining ships. The station could process millions of tons of material every day. The Crystalline Collective spent 3 years studying the station. They wrote detailed reports about human manufacturing techniques. They created beautiful musical compositions, inspired by the elegance of human engineering. But they never managed to mine a single asteroid. The station's robots sat silent and useless. The processing facilities gathered dust. The crystalline beings had learned everything about how the station worked, but they had forgotten to actually work it. Captain Yunha recorded all of this in her daily reports. Every failure, every mistake, every example of alien stupidity was documented and sent to human leadership in the Andromeda Galaxy. "Sir," said intelligence analyst Jie, "we are getting some interesting information about alien politics. The unity that had brought alien species together to vote against humanity had completely collapsed. Without humans to fear, the aliens had gone back to their old rivalries and conflicts. The hegemony and Vorthak were fighting over trading rights in former human space. Both species claimed that their sacrifice in eliminating the human threat gave them special privileges. The crystalline collective was angry because the other species were not sharing human technology. They had expected to study human computers and engineering in peace. Instead, they found themselves competing with other aliens for access to human facilities. The Sigma Centauri were the most honest about the situation. Their leaders admitted that eliminating humanity had been a mistake. Humans had been the galaxy's most productive species. Without them, economic growth had slowed across all alien civilizations. "We removed our most successful competitors," said one Sigma Centauri economist in a recorded speech. "Now we compete with each other for a smaller prize." The alien conflicts were getting worse. Trade disputes became military threats. Resource arguments turned into actual fighting. The peace that the Council had hoped to create by eliminating humans had lasted less than 2 years. Meanwhile, human technology continued to break down without humans to maintain it. The automated systems that kept human cities running were sophisticated, but they were not designed to last forever without maintenance. After 3 years, power plants started failing. Water treatment facilities broke down. Transportation networks stopped working. The aliens tried to fix these problems, but human technology was too advanced for them to understand. Hegemony engineers could repair their own simple machines, but human computers used quantum processing that was beyond their knowledge. Vorthak mechanics could fix basic robots, but human AI systems made decisions in ways that alien minds could not follow. Engineer Soman had programmed Proxima Station to run automatically for years. Her systems were elegantly designed and built to last, but she had assumed that humans would eventually return to perform major maintenance. When the fusion reactor developed a small problem, the automated systems tried to fix it. They followed the procedures that Soman had programmed. But the problem was more complex than the computers could handle. A human engineer would have diagnosed the issue in minutes and made a simple repair. The alien engineers who had taken over the station did not understand fusion technology well enough to fix anything. The reactor shut down automatically to prevent damage. The station lost power. All the systems that had kept 12 colonies supplied. With energy went dark. The aliens had to abandon the colonies. Millions of people lost their homes because no one could fix one small problem in a human power plant. Similar failures happened across human space. Human technology was designed by humans for humans. Without humans to maintain it, even the most advanced systems eventually broke down. Captain Yunha watched the slow collapse of human civilization with mixed feelings. Part of her was sad to see the end of worlds where humans had lived and worked for generations. Part of her was satisfied to see the aliens fail so completely. "They wanted our technology," she said to her crew, "but they never wanted to understand it." The most painful thing to watch was the destruction of human culture. Aliens did not just fail to maintain human machines. They actively destroyed human art, literature, and music. The hegemony considered human entertainment to be weak and corrupting. They burned human books and smashed human musical instruments. They replaced human artwork with military propaganda. The Vorthak thought human culture was dangerous because it promoted individual thinking instead of group conformity. They destroyed human schools and libraries. They melted down human statues to make metal for their own projects. Even the crystalline collective who appreciated beauty did not understand human creativity. They preserved some human artworks as curiosities, but they did not try to understand what the art meant to humans. Within 5 years, most traces of human culture had been erased from the galaxy. The species that had feared human expansion had also eliminated human contributions to galactic civilization. "They got what they wanted," said cultural observer Wu Jin, "a galaxy without human influence." "And look how well that is working for them," Captain Yunha replied. The reports from hidden observation posts painted a clear picture. Without humans, the galaxy was becoming a poorer, more violent, less innovative place. The aliens had eliminated their most successful competitors, but they had also eliminated the species that had driven progress and prosperity for everyone. Trade decreased because humans had been the galaxy's best merchants. Scientific advancement slowed because humans had been the most creative researchers. Cultural exchange stopped because humans had been the most open to learning from other species. The aliens had won their war against humanity, but they had lost the peace that followed. Captain Yunha prepared her final report after 5 years of observation. The conclusions were clear and depressing. The alien species that had feared human success were not capable of replacing human achievements. Dr. Sunho was very old now. 23 years had passed since humans disappeared from the galaxy. He had spent those years studying the aftermath, writing reports that few people read, and wondering if he would ever see humans again. Then the message arrived. It came through communication channels that should not have existed. It appeared on his private computer screen using technology that was far beyond anything in council space. The face on the screen was older, but he recognized Ambassador Jiwan immediately. "Dr. Sunho," she said with a smile that seemed both familiar and strange. Humanity would like to invite the Galactic Council to a reunion. The coordinates she provided pointed to a star system at the very edge of the galaxy. Every map showed that region as empty space, no planets worth visiting, no resources worth mining, nothing but cold stars and cosmic dust. But when the Council sent a diplomatic fleet to investigate, they found something that changed everything they thought they knew about the universe. The star system was not empty. It was full of structures, so large they made Council space stations look like toys, rings around planets that could house billions of people, spheres around stars that captured all their energy, bridges between worlds that stretched across millions of kilometers. And it was not just human anymore. Admiral Do Yun, now much older and wearing uniforms that seemed to be made of living light, welcomed the Council delegation aboard a ship that was less vehicle than flying city. As he guided them through corridors lined with impossible architecture, he explained what humanity had found in their exile. "The universe is much bigger than we thought," he said in a voice that carried harmonics. "No human throat should have been able to make, and much more dangerous." The ship itself was proof of that. The walls seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. The gravity pointed in different directions in different rooms. Windows showed views of space that included colors that had no names and stars arranged in patterns that hurt alien minds to look at. "How is this possible?" asked the Vorthak representative, his 6 arms trembling with fear. "We learned new physics," Admiral Do Yun replied simply. "We met teachers who understood reality better than we did. The teachers, it turned out, were refugees like humanity had been, species that had fled from their home galaxies when disasters struck. Some had escaped wars that consumed entire star clusters. Others had run from plagues that turned living worlds into dead rock. A few had been driven out by entities that existed between dimensions and fed on the energy of civilizations. Instead of competing for resources like the Council species did, these refugee civilizations had chosen to work together. They shared knowledge, technology, and culture. They helped each other build new homes and new lives. Humanity had not just survived their exile, they had joined something better than they had ever imagined possible. Ambassador Jiwon took over the tour from Admiral Do Hyun. She looked almost the same as she had 23 years ago, but her eyes held depths that suggested she had seen wonders beyond description. "We want to share what we have learned," she told the alien delegation. "But first, we need to know if you have learned anything yourselves." The delegation was taken to observation decks where they could see the full scale of what humanity had built. Cities that floated in space without any visible support. Factories that turned raw energy into solid matter. Gardens where plants from 100 different worlds grew together in impossible harmony. But the most shocking sight was the people. Humans were still recognizably human, but they had changed. Some had modifications that allowed them to survive in different environments. Others had enhancements that let them think faster or live longer. A few had alterations that were so advanced the aliens could not understand what they were looking at, and humans were not alone. The system was full of beings from dozens of different species. Some looked like the Council races, but others were completely alien, crystalline beings that made music from pure mathematics, energy creatures that communicated through controlled lightning. Hive minds that existed as clouds of cooperative nanomachines, all of them working together. All of them building something amazing. "This is what we found," Ambassador Jiwan explained. "Species that understood that survival meant cooperation, not domination. The council delegation was taken to a massive structure at the center of the system. It was part space station, part library, part university, and part something that had no name in any council language. Here, the knowledge of thousands of civilizations was stored and shared freely. Dr. Sunho found himself in a room full of books, data crystals, quantum storage devices, and memory archives from species he had never heard of. The accumulated wisdom of entire galaxies was available for anyone to study. "You could spend 1,000 lifetimes here," said the librarian, a being that seemed to be made of living starlight, "and still only scratch the surface of what we have learned." But the tour was not just about showing off advanced technology. Ambassador Jiwan had a serious message to deliver. "While you have been fighting over our empty worlds," she said, "we have been monitoring threats to this galaxy. Dark space entities are moving toward the Milky Way. Stellar engineers from dead galaxies are planning harvesting operations. Machine intelligences that consume entire civilizations are calculating optimal attack routes." The screens around them showed images that made the council delegates feel sick with fear. Creatures the size of moons that ate stars for energy. Mechanical swarms that could strip a planet down to its core in days. Energy beings that could turn entire star systems into weapons. "The conflicts you have been having with each other are about to become irrelevant," Admiral Do-hyun said. "These threats make your worst wars look like children's games." The reality was stark and terrifying. While council species had been arguing about territory and resources, real dangers had been approaching from outside the galaxy. Threats that could destroy all life in the Milky Way without even noticing it was there. Humanity and their new allies were prepared to help. They had technology that could defend against most of the approaching threats. They had weapons that could destroy enemies the size of planets. They had defenses that could protect entire star systems, but they would only share this help if the council species could prove they had learned from their mistakes. "We left because we realized that cooperation was more important than competition," Ambassador Jiwan explained. "If you want our help, you must realize the same thing." The offer was simple, but difficult. Council species would have to abandon their old ways of thinking. They would have to stop fighting each other over resources. They would have to work together like the refugee civilizations in Andromeda had learned to do. In return, humanity would share technology that could solve every energy problem, cure every disease, and defend against every external threat. But if the council species could not change, humanity would leave them to face the coming darkness alone. The council delegation returned to their home space with minds full of impossible images and hearts full of difficult choices. The debates that followed were fierce and desperate. Some council members wanted to accept humanity's offer immediately. The threats from dark space were real and terrifying. Without human help, council civilizations might not survive the next century. Others were suspicious of human motives. They wondered if this was some kind of trick. Maybe humans were allied with the dark space entities. Maybe the whole thing was a plan to enslave council species. A few were simply too proud to ask for help from the species they had tried to eliminate. Dr. Sunho found himself in the middle of the most important debate in galactic history. His voice carried weight because he was the only council member who truly understood what humanity had become. "They are not the same species that left us," he told the council. "They have grown beyond our level of existence. They are offering to lift us up to their level, but only if we prove we deserve it." The vote was closer than anyone expected, but in the end, survival won over pride. The council voted to accept humanity's terms. They would abandon their old conflicts and learn to work together. They would share their resources and knowledge freely. They would become the kind of species that deserved to survive in a dangerous universe. Dr. Sunho cast the deciding vote. As he pressed the button, he thought about how different this vote was from the one that had driven humanity away. This time, the council was not voting to destroy something they feared. They were voting to become something better than they had been. Ambassador Jiwan received the council's decision with the same calm smile she had worn during all those meetings 23 years ago. But this time, the smile was genuine. "Welcome to the larger universe," she said. "Let us show you what is possible when species choose cooperation over conflict." The first human ships returned to the Milky Way 6 months later. They came not as conquerors or refugees, but as teachers and allies. They brought technology that seemed like magic and wisdom that had been earned through suffering and growth. They also brought friends, species from other galaxies who had heard about the Council's change of heart and wanted to help build something new. The transformation of Council space began immediately. Old conflicts were resolved through human mediation. Resource disputes were ended,